Hello, this is Louise Carden. I was thinking the other day about what it was I wanted to be when I was a child and how things have turned out differently from the way I anticipated. When I was young, I had a huge range of interests. I was interested in arts, I was interested in science, I was interested in the natural world. Unfortunately, when you go to school, certainly by the time you're 13 or 14, you discover that you have to specialise in one area or another. You become an artist or a scientist, or you are interested in things like history and English. Our education system seems to give very little ability to be able to mix and match some of those subjects. And certainly when I was a young child, my list of things I wanted to do when I grew up included ballerina, artist, astronaut, scientist, doctor, all kinds of different things that I was interested in. One of my big passions was the natural world and nature. I loved going for nature walks, I loved playing in the garden, and luckily I was at a school where we used to go out for nature walks in the spring and the summer and autumn, and our teachers used to tell us all the names of the flowers and the trees and how to identify them. When I was 13 or 14, I became really interested in geology, and in fact that was what I went on to study at university. But I never lost my interest in arts, history and other subjects, but it became much more difficult to include those in my everyday life when, certainly in the sixth form, I had to do physics and chemistry in order to take a scientific degree. I did in fact work as a geologist in the oil industry, but that wasn't really the kind of geology I thought I would do. I expected to be out in the open air, walking amongst the mountains and the fields, prospecting. In fact, I spent all my working life in an office looking at charts and data, which is used to identify areas where you might find oil. When I had my family and I gave up working in the corporate world, I became interested in finding out more about complementary medicine, how these kind of things worked for people. I was looking for more gentle ways of coping with my family's emotional and physical problems. And my early interest in nature and the natural world, in fact, came into play in that as well. And one of the things that I do these days is I use flower essences to help people cope with emotional problems. Flower essences are incredibly powerful at helping with emotional issues. If any of you have taken a batch rescue remedy, you'll know what I mean. And I was reminded of that this morning as I was up in my local high street. I looked in the window of one of the charity shops, and in the window they had 4 china plates from the Flower Fairies series. This is one of them here. This is a lovely little flower fairy. I've got 4 more of these because when I went into the shop and asked about them, they told me they had a 5th one out the back which wasn't boxed, and they're all different. And one of the things I remembered in my childhood was that I had a book about the Flower Fairies, an enormous book, probably about 2 or 3 feet long, with the wonderful illustrations and poems that go with it. I have no idea what happened to that book. I've searched in my parents' attic, I've searched in the cupboards. My mother doesn't even remember the book, but I remember it really well. And so it's quite interesting that nowadays I'm actually using flower essences to help people. And when I look back on my childhood, being out in our garden, being out in nature, and that Flower Fairies book was something that was very important to me. So it's almost as though I've come full circle from that time when I really immersed myself in nature. If you'd like to find out a bit more about flower essences and how they can work for you, go over to my website, which is www.louisecarden.com, and there's quite a bit of information on there. You can also sign up to follow my email list. I will send you my top 10 tranquility tips if you do that. and I'll be sending you lots more information from time to time about various workshops and courses that I run, some of which will be on the flower essences.